Someone noticed you today and you have no idea who.
That's a weirdly specific and unsettling thought, Gabriel. But you know what? I get it. Have you ever had that feeling like you're just walking down the street or in a coffee shop and you just feel like someone's eyes are on you for no reason at all?
Exactly. It's that little prickle on the back of your neck. And most of the time we shake it off, right? We tell ourselves, I'm being paranoid. Nobody's paying attention to me. But what if that feeling isn't just paranoia? What if it's our subconscious picking up on a fundamental truth we try to ignore?
Okay, I'm hooked because that's the core of what we're talking about today on the Behavior Code, isn't it? This deep seated idea we have that we're mostly invisible as we move through the world, and how wrong that idea really is. Stick with us because by the end of this episode, you'll realize just how much people actually pay attention to you, and more importantly, how you can use that to your advantage. A truth that we're hardwired to ignore for our own sanity, maybe? Because if we truly accepted that we were being observed all the time, we'd probably never leave the house. It's a terrifying thought in a way, and it's a feeling that has only gotten more intense with time, don't you think? In a world where we're all technically connected online, we feel more anonymous in the real world. We assume no one is looking up from their screens long enough to notice us. But that feeling, that little subconscious alarm, it tells a different story. It suggests our brains are still running ancient software in a modern world.
You will not see the world the same way. That's a promise. I remember being in a busy train station once, completely lost in a book. And for no reason, I looked up and my eyes met with someone across the platform. It was just for a second, but it was this moment of pure, unfiltered connection. We didn't know each other, would never see each other again, but in that instant, we were both aware of the other's existence. It's those little moments that prove the illusion of being invisible is just that, an illusion. That's a perfect example. It's like we're all carrying around these little social radars, constantly pinging the people around us. We're not trying to be nosy, it's just an automatic process. Our brains are gathering data to keep us safe and informed about our social environment. And most of the time, this is all happening just below the surface of our conscious thought.
All right, so let's just dive right into the heart of it, the big illusion. Most of us, and I'm definitely guilty of this, operate under the assumption that says, no one is watching me.
100%. It's a coping mechanism, really. The world is overwhelming enough without thinking that every person you pass is scrutinizing you. So we tell ourselves, that person is on their phone, that couple is busy talking, the barista is focused on making coffee. Everyone is in their own little bubble.
Right, it's a comfortable lie. We think, unless I do something totally outrageous, like trip and send my groceries flying everywhere, I'm basically invisible. People are too busy with their own lives to notice little old me.
And here's the kicker, Maria. That's just not how our brains are built. From an evolutionary standpoint, from a survival standpoint, our brains are wired to do one thing constantly: scan. We are constantly scanning our environment for information.
For threats, for opportunities.
For threats, opportunities, social cues, everything. And the most information-rich things in any environment, other people. Another human being is a massive source of data. Are they a friend, a foe? Are they confident? Are they nervous? Are they part of my tribe? We're making these micro calculations all the time, even when we're not consciously aware of it.
So even if someone is looking at their phone, their peripheral vision, their subconscious brain, is still logging you as you walk past. They're still registering something about you.
Something. It could be your posture, the speed you're walking, the color of your jacket. It's not active judgment, not at this stage, it's passive observation. I want you to hold on to that phrase. You are always being passively observed. Your present is always being clocked, even if it's just for a nanosecond, by every brain in your vicinity.
That's such a powerful reframe. It's not that everyone is staring at you, waiting for you to fail. It's that their brains are simply automatically registering your existence as data.
I think a great way to put it is that our brains are constantly building a social map of our environment. And every person in that environment is a landmark. We're not necessarily judging them. but we are placing them on the map. We're assessing their trajectory, their mood, their potential for interaction. It's a deeply ingrained process that we can't just turn off.
And that's happening on a massive scale, right? Think about walking through a busy airport terminal. You might feel completely anonymous, like a single fish in a giant school. But your brain, and everyone else's brain, is processing an incredible amount of data about the people flowing around you. Who's in a hurry? Who seems lost? Who looks calm and confident? It's a constant, silent stream of information.
Precisely. The illusion is thinking you're a ghost in the machine. The reality is you're a blip on dozens of radars at all times. You're never truly invisible. I had this exact experience on a backpacking trip years ago. I was in a small town in a country where I didn't speak the language, and I felt completely invisible. I figured, I don't know anyone here, no one knows me, I can just be a total fly on the wall. But after a few days, I went to buy bread from the same bakery, and the woman behind the counter smiled and held up the type of bread I'd bought the 2 days before. She'd noticed my pattern. My simple, repeated behavior had registered. It completely shattered my illusion of anonymity. Even when you feel most invisible, your patterns are being logged.
That's such a great story because it's so analog. It's just simple human observation. And I think we've tricked ourselves into believing that technology has made us more anonymous, but it's actually done the opposite. Now, on top of the real-world observation, there's a whole digital layer. We're being passively observed in person and actively tracked online. It's a double whammy of visibility we've never experienced in human history. Okay, so I can imagine some people listening right now are getting a little bit of anxiety, like, oh great, so people are watching me. And this connects directly to a well-known psychological concept, right? The spotlight effect.
Yes, absolutely, and it's important we tackle this head on. The spotlight effect is our tendency to think that more people notice our actions or appearance than they actually do.
It's the classic example. You spill a tiny drop of coffee on your shirt, and you're convinced for the rest of the day that every single person you interact with is staring at the stain and judging you.
Right, you feel like there's a giant, flashing neon sign pointing at it. But in reality, maybe one person noticed it for half a second and immediately forgot about it. So what we're saying seems like a contradiction. We're saying people are always watching you, but the spotlight effect says people aren't watching you as much as you think.
Exactly. So let's flip the narrative on that. The spotlight effect is true for the details, especially the negative ones we fixate on. People probably won't notice the coffee stain or that you stumbled on a crack in the sidewalk or that one piece of hair that's out of place. They are not dissecting your flaws.
But, and this is the crucial distinction, while they're not noticing the tiny, insignificant details, their brains are still passively observing the bigger picture. They're noticing the patterns, they're noticing your energy, they're noticing your overall level of confidence or anxiety.
That's it. So they don't see the coffee stain, but they do register the way you're hunched over all day trying to hide it. They register the lack of eye contact that comes from your self-consciousness.
Think of it like this. Your brain is the CEO of You Inc. It's focused on the big picture, your goals, your thoughts, your feelings. The passive observers are like people just glancing at your company's stock ticker. They're not reading your quarterly earnings report. They don't see the tiny dip in sales on Tuesday. They see the overall trend. Is a stock going up or is it going down? They're noticing the general trajectory of your energy and confidence, not the minute-to-minute fluctuations. Yes, they don't care that you tripped, but they notice if you recover with a laugh and keep going, or if you get flustered and scurry away looking embarrassed for the next 5 minutes. It's not the event, it's the response. It's the overall vibe.
So this is where we land then. It's the perfect middle ground between everyone is judging me and no one sees me. The key line here is they don't notice everything, but they notice enough. They notice the things that actually matter. Oh, I have a perfect story for this. A few years ago, I was giving a big presentation, and right before I went on, I realized one of the buttons on my blazer had fallen off. It was right in the middle, totally obvious to me, and my heart just sank. For the first 5 minutes of my talk, I was convinced that all 200 people in that room were staring at my missing button, thinking how unprofessional I was. My focus was shot. I was stammering. It was a disaster in my head. Afterwards, my boss said I seemed a little nervous at the start, but finished strong. I asked him if he noticed the button. He leaned in, squinted at my blazer, and said, "What button?" No one had noticed, but my belief that they noticed was making me project the exact nervous energy I was afraid of.
So, if they're not noticing the little things we're insecure about, what are they actually noticing? What is the enough that you just mentioned? Let's break it down into a few categories.
Yeah, let's get practical. The first and most obvious one is your body language. Before you even open your mouth, people have clocked your posture. Are you standing tall, shoulders back, or are you slumped trying to make yourself smaller?
And eye contact. My God, eye contact. It's huge. Can you hold someone's gaze comfortably, or are your eyes darting around the room looking for an escape? One signals confidence and trustworthiness, the other signals anxiety and shiftiness. It's a primal, instant judgment.
Hmm? And that ties directly into the second category, which is energy. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's real. People can feel your energy. You know when someone walks into a room and they just exude confidence? It's not arrogant, it's just a calm self-assuredness.
I once worked with a creative director who was brilliant, but she had a habit of hunching over her laptop. In meetings, even when she presented incredible ideas, her posture signaled a lack of conviction. We hired a presentation coach for the team, and the first thing he worked on with her was simply standing up straight and taking up more space at the table. It was a small physical change, but the difference was immediate. People started responding to her ideas with more seriousness and enthusiasm, all because her nonverbal cues finally matched the strength of her intellect. That's a fantastic point, Maria. It's about taking control of the narrative. Instead of letting your reflexive, anxious behaviors write the story for you, you step in and consciously choose the story you want to tell. It's like being the editor of your own nonverbal communication.
And it's not just about the positive signals, it's about how you handle the negative ones. For instance, if you're in a meeting and you get asked a question you don't know the answer to, the way you handle that moment says more about you than if you had the answer. Do you get defensive? Do you try to bluff your way through it? Or do you confidently say, "I don't have that information right now, but I will get it for you"? That response shows honesty and self-assurance, and that's what people will remember.
Yeah, and you can feel the opposite too. Someone who walks in radiating insecurity. It's in the way they hesitate at the doorway, the way they seem apologetic for just taking up space. That energy, that vibe, is one of the very first things people notice and form an opinion about.
It reminds me of that whole power pose concept that was popular a few years ago. The idea that standing in a confident posture like Superman for a couple of minutes can actually change your body chemistry and make you feel more confident. Whether the science on that is fully settled or not, the core principle is undeniable. Your body and mind are a two-way street. When you consciously adopt the body language of a confident person, it doesn't just send a signal to others, it sends a signal back to yourself. I remember once I was at a networking event, and this person walked in. Before they said a single word, I felt myself relax. There was just this aura of calm confidence around them. They weren't loud or showy, but they moved with a sense of purpose and ease that was magnetic. It made me want to talk to them. It's a perfect example of how much information we transmit before we even open our mouths. Okay, third category. Micro behaviors. This is the really subtle stuff. The slight hesitation before you answer a question. The way your voice goes up in pitch at the end of a sentence, making a statement sound like a question.
And that's so crucial because it's not about putting on a performance. It's about aligning your internal state with your external presentation. It's about letting the best version of yourself shine through, without the interference of those little gremlins of self-doubt that can so often sabotage our interactions. The speed at which you talk. Someone who rushes their words seems nervous, like they don't think what they have to say is worth taking up time. Someone who speaks calmly, deliberately, with pauses, they command attention. Their words seem to have more weight. And that energy is contagious, isn't it? If you walk into a meeting full of anxious, frantic energy, it puts everyone on edge. But if you walk in calm and collected, you can literally feel the collective blood pressure in the room go down. You set the emotional tone for the entire interaction. I once had a junior team member who was brilliant, but always seemed incredibly stressed. His energy was so palpable it would make me feel stressed. We worked on some breathing exercises for him to do before meetings, and as he learned to control his own energy, the dynamic of our entire team shifted. People became more open, more creative, because the baseline feeling in the room was one of control, not chaos.
Totally. And the last category, which ties it all together, is consistency over time. One bad day where you're slumped and nervous, people will forget it. But if you're consistently slumped and nervous every time they see you, that becomes their story about you. That becomes your reputation.
It solidifies into a perception. Oh, that's Maria. She's really sharp, but a little anxious. Or that's Gabriel. He's a super confident guy. These labels are built from hundreds of these passive observations over time, which leads to this critical insight, and it's something I think about constantly. People don't remember what you say, they remember how you felt to them.
Yes, they won't remember the specifics of your presentation, but they'll remember feeling that you were confident and in control, or that you seemed unsure and nervous. That feeling is what sticks.
And this brings us to a part of this conversation that no one really likes to talk about because it feels, I don't know, it feels a little judgmental. It's the reality of silent judgment.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's true. Based on all those things we just talked about, the body language, the energy, the micro behaviors, people make snap judgments instantly. We're talking milliseconds.
It's another survival mechanism. The brain needs to quickly categorize things, safe or unsafe, competent or incompetent, friend or foe. It doesn't have time to wait for your resume and 3 letters of recommendation. It makes a call based on the data it gets in the first few seconds.
And the craziest part is most people will never, ever tell you what they think. They'll never say, the way you avoided eye contact made me question your confidence. Or, you seemed really hesitant, so I'm not sure I trust you to lead this project.
Never. It's all internal. It all happens behind their eyes. And these silent judgments have massive real-world consequences. Think about a meeting. Who gets listened to? Who gets their ideas dismissed out of hand? It's often not about the quality of the idea, but about the perceived authority of the person presenting it.
Absolutely. It's the difference between being met with respect versus dismissal, or trust versus skepticism. You walk into a negotiation, and before a word is spoken about the terms, the other party has already made a judgment about whether they think you're a serious player or someone they can walk all over.
It dictates who gets asked for their opinion, who gets offered opportunities, who gets the benefit of the doubt. It's happening constantly in every interaction. And it makes me think of this line that it hits so hard. Your reputation is built in rooms you're not thinking about.
Yeah, it's not just the big presentation or the job interview. It's the elevator ride. It's how you order your coffee. It's how you stand waiting for the train. All these tiny moments are data points that people are collecting, and they're building a picture of you, whether you like it or not.
And it's not just in professional settings. Think about dating. The first 5 minutes of a first date are basically a constant stream of silent judgments. How they hold their menu, whether they make eye contact with the waiter, how they react to a small inconvenience like a wobbly table. These tiny data points are building a massive impression of who this person is long before you get to the deep and meaningful conversation.
I had a humbling experience with this a few years ago. I was interviewing for a job I really wanted, and I thought it went great. I answered all the questions perfectly, but I didn't get it. Months later, I ran into the hiring manager at a conference, and he was very candid with me. He said, "You had all the right answers, but you delivered them as if you were apologizing for being in the room." My nervous energy, my lack of confident body language completely undercut my words. They made a silent judgment that I wasn't ready for the role, not based on what I said, but on how I said it. It was a tough but incredibly valuable lesson.
And that picture they're building, that's your reality in their eyes. That silent judgment becomes the foundation of every future interaction you have with them.
Okay, so we've probably freaked everyone out sufficiently. Silent judgments, constant observation, it sounds like a nightmare. But here's the turn. This is actually incredibly powerful. This isn't a reason to be anxious, it's a reason to be empowered.
Yes, this is the whole point, because once you understand the game, you can start to play it. Awareness equals control. As long as you're ignorant of these dynamics, you're a victim of them. You're just leaking signals unconsciously and letting people form whatever impression they want.
But the moment you become aware that people are noticing your posture, your tone, your energy, well, now you can do something about it. You can shape that perception intentionally. You can decide what signals you want to send.
And the beautiful thing is that small shifts create massive impact. You don't have to become a different person. We're talking about tiny, tiny adjustments that completely change the data people are receiving.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, slower movements. People who are anxious tend to have quick, jerky movements. Fidgeting, rapid gestures. People who are confident and in control move more slowly, more deliberately. Simply forcing yourself to slow down your physical actions, picking up your cup of coffee slowly, turning your head slowly. It sends a powerful subconscious signal of composure and confidence.
I love that. Another one, holding eye contact for just 1 second longer than feels uncomfortable. That small act communicates authority and presence. It says, I am here and I am not intimidated. It's a tiny shift, but it completely changes the power dynamic in a conversation.
Here's another one, speaking less. In a group setting, we often feel the need to fill silence, to prove we have something to contribute. But frequently, the person who is perceived as the most intelligent or powerful is the one who listens more than they speak, and when they do talk, their words are concise and impactful.
Yes, the economy of words. It signals that you're not desperate for approval. You're confident enough to be silent and observe. Each of these things, slower movement, longer eye contact, speaking less, are small, controllable actions, but they completely rewrite the story that observers are creating about you. You're no longer letting them guess, you're telling them who you are.
So this is where the rubber meets the road. We've talked about the theory, the why, but let's give our listeners some practical psychology. How do you actually start to use this day to day?
Okay, tip 1, and this is a big one for me. Enter rooms with intention. Don't just stumble into a room while looking at your phone or shuffle in apologetically. Before you walk through any doorway, a meeting room, a party, your own home, take 1 second, pull your shoulders back, lift your chin, and walk in as if you belong there.
That first impression is so critical, which leads to tip 2. Control your first 10 seconds. When you meet someone new or you start a presentation, those first few seconds are when the snap judgment is cemented. In those 10 seconds, focus entirely on your nonverbals. A firm handshake, direct eye contact, a warm, genuine smile, a calm, steady posture. Nail those 10 seconds and you've won 80% of the battle. You've set the tone.
Tip 3, pause before speaking. This is so powerful and so simple. When someone asks you a question, instead of rushing to answer, take a full 2-second breath. Just pause. It does 2 things. First, it makes you look thoughtful and considered, not reactive. Second, it gives you a moment to actually formulate a better answer. It projects immense calm and intelligence.
That pause is everything. My final tip, tip 4, is a mindset shift more than an action. Be comfortable being observed. Instead of shying away from that feeling of being watched, lean into it, accept it, own the space you're in. When you give a presentation, don't just stare at your notes. Look out at the audience, see them, let them see you. Being comfortable with attention is maybe the ultimate signal of confidence.
I think the way to frame all of this, the most important takeaway, is that you don't need to change who you are, just how you show up. This isn't about being fake or creating a false persona. It's about making sure your outward expression accurately reflects the competent, confident person you already are on the inside. It's about clearing away the static of nervous habits so your true signal can come through clearly. For our listeners who might be more introverted, the idea of being comfortable being observed might sound like a nightmare. A good way to start is to reframe it. It's not about being the center of attention, but about being a calm, observant presence yourself. Instead of feeling like all eyes are on you, try to become more interested in observing the world around you. And as a side effect, you often appear more present and engaged.
Ultimately, what we're talking about is a fundamental shift in mindset, a complete change in your internal monologue as you move through the world.
Exactly. You have to consciously stop thinking, no one notices me. That thought gives you permission to be sloppy with your behavior. It lets you slouch, to mumble, to avoid eye contact, because you believe it doesn't matter.
Right, it's an excuse, and you need to replace it. You have to start thinking people are always forming an impression. Not in a paranoid way, but in an intentional way, in an empowered way. Every moment is an opportunity to communicate who you are.
And when you make that mental switch, it's amazing what starts to happen. First, it builds incredible self-awareness. You start to notice your own habits. You catch yourself when you're about to fidget or slouch. You become a conscious participant in your own life.
And that awareness builds presence. You're no longer just physically in a room, your mind is there too. You're more engaged, you're a better listener because you know you're part of a dynamic system of observation. You're not just a passenger.
And all of that culminates in true, authentic confidence. Not the loud, arrogant kind, but the quiet, unshakable kind that comes from knowing you are in command of yourself.
That's the core of it all, shifting from a passive, accidental existence to an active, intentional one. It changes everything.
So let's bring it all the way back to where we started. That feeling, that idea that someone noticed you today.
And they did. The person in line behind you at the cafe, the colleague you pass in the hall, the driver in the car next to you at the stoplight, their brains registered you. For just a moment, you were a piece of data.
And what did that data say? Did it say confident, composed, present? Or did it say anxious, distracted, insecure? For a long time, most of us have been letting the answer to that question be completely random, a product of our moods and unconscious habits.
But not anymore. The fear isn't that people are watching. The power is knowing that you get to direct the show. You can't stop them from looking, but you can absolutely influence what they find.
That's the message for today from the Behavior Code. Be intentional, be aware, and own your presence.
Because people are watching, but now you know how to control what they see.